are live. Well, it's just me today. Royal we, then, I guess. Anyway, I'm sorry I haven't streamed for a few weeks now. Life, as it is, has been erratic to say the least. But this is the roughly new time that I'm going to stream on, 20:30 locally for me. Because I'm going to try to make more of a daily routine of things and going to bed at a reasonable time. And let's be honest, 2 a.m. is not a reasonable time. So what's today's stream all about? Well, today's stream is mostly about me streaming once again, because let's be honest, first time in 2 weeks. But I will also talk a little bit about the coronavirus and a lot about the green revolution bullshit. And yes, Paulo Costa, welcome for being here. It's just you and me today, and you're going to go in a moment, you already told me. But bunnies, because I had to do something with the background and I wasn't sure what to do. So I thought, bunnies. Can't go wrong with bunnies in my humble opinion. So yeah, there is that. Okay, what's the first thing I wanted to talk about? Well, let's talk about the coronavirus. Why? Because we are talking about it all the time, and apparently there is so much being said about it, yet none of it is allowed to be said. Now, not too long ago, there were 2 doctors that made an interview, and they invited a bunch of real media, and they put it on the interwebs, on YouTube, talking about how the coronavirus is not what we are being told it is. It's not acting as we were told it would act. And what we are doing against it is downright silly. Obviously, after I think about a week, that video got taken down from YouTube because it went against the World Health Organization's storyline. Oh, by the way, Paulo, is my voice coming through clear? Because this is a new PC and I'm not quite sure how the sound settings are on this one. It should be okay, but who knows? Anyway, back to the story. So yeah, they told the people that were listening that we're being fed a lot of manure, because manure is such a better word than shit. We're being fed a lot of manure about the coronavirus. The things that we are being told are not even close to the truth, which is interesting and funny, but then they got removed. Because how dare you say something that the World Health Organization doesn't agree with? This is the same World Health Organization that told everyone at the beginning of the pandemic how there wasn't the possibility of human-to-human transmission. We're still talking about January when they put that out. And I know, well, insofar I know for a fact, I remember that in January I was sick. That's alright though, I mean, we get sick from time to time, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, no, that's true, there's nothing wrong with it. I was sick for 2 weeks, and in all fairness, considering the fact that my lungs seem to have picked up a little bit of damage, it's quite plausible that I had corona. End of January in the Netherlands. According to what we knew at the time, there was no corona in the Netherlands at the time. A little bit of echo and reverb, thank you. I don't know where that echo is coming from. I'll seem to have to look into it. But not now. I'll look into it later. So yeah, I was sick of the coronavirus. Not just me, the whole family, because that's how it went. In a time that the coronavirus wasn't really active in the Netherlands. Or at least we didn't think it was active in the Netherlands. Well, it seems we were wrong. And now, the more we learn about the coronavirus, the more we learn how wrong we are. I mean, people are still talking about how there are an X amount of people sick. In the Netherlands, I think we've reached 40,000. But that number is incorrect. It's way higher than that. Hi there, Michael Keller. And we have about 5,000 people that have died in the Netherlands. But in all fairness, that number might be a little bit high, because a lot of people that die with the coronavirus are registered as dying from the coronavirus, which isn't the same thing. I had to leave the badger stream. Is there a badger stream going on right now? Because then this might not be the best of time frames. There you have it. Anyway, so there is the fact that we are being lied to about how many people are infected with the coronavirus. Then there is the fact that we're being lied to on how many people have died because of the coronavirus. And in all fairness, a few weeks ago, let me say when it was, I think it was halfway April. Wasn't it earlier? It could be halfway April. There was this doctor from New York who was talking about how 80% of the patients with corona that are being put on ventilators die. I've heard that one before. He wasn't the first to mention it. I can remember having seen a video clip of someone else who had the coronavirus, who was at risk of having to be put on a ventilator, and this scared him so much because, as far as he knew, everyone that was put on ventilators died as well. So he tried to regain control of his lungs by training them, which worked. But that seems to confirm what the doctor in New York was saying as well. Maybe I should just show you the story. Maybe I should. Because what that doctor said is that once people are on the ventilator, chances are they're not going to survive. And if they're not going to survive, well, that's a problem, is it not? Or at least it should be. And here's the article. This is on the Mail, but there are other articles like it. And yeah, it was mid-April. You're right, Michael. So, if those life-saving ventilators are indeed death traps, then are the dead people that actually died with COVID from COVID because they were on ventilators, did they die because of COVID, or did they die because they got maltreated? Now I've seen the video of the doctor. I'll scroll to show you his face. I'm not going to play the video, but I've seen the video, and he explains that it was more of the problems that came with COVID were more of oxygen deprivation. And the question then becomes, why are those bodies oxygen deprived? Is feeding a large amount of oxygen into the lungs actually a good idea? Well, considering that 80% of the people who have this done to them die, one could pretty fairly assert that, yeah, no, this is not a good idea. Now, there are people who have been treated with CPAP devices. CPAP devices are basically assisted breathing. It's just pressurizing the air so that it's easier for your body to breathe by itself. But it doesn't pump the oxygen into the body. And it seemed to have a better effect than the ventilators do. But ventilators are the primary way of treating runaway pneumonia, because if a pneumonia gets too bad, you put people on a ventilator, which works. But COVID isn't pneumonia, and the complaints that COVID brings are pneumonia. Now, this was all clear, and yet still a lot of countries still use the ventilator as primary emergency treatment. Now, funny enough, and this is something I think that's also mentioned in this article. I'll link it in the chat, and I'll have it in the, I'll have it in the description of the video later. But Boris Johnson, when he was sick, they contemplated putting him on a ventilator, and they decided not to because of the massive risk that was involved with putting him on a ventilator. But most plebs are still being treated by the ventilator thing. Now, this is the main thing that irks me, because the whole COVID thing is a strong combination of lies, misinformation, and, well, downright propaganda. We are being told what the best solutions is. We're being told why it should work. And if it doesn't work, well, we're being told, well, yeah, but that's because those people were too sick. Which is also true. Let's be honest, people die, so there's nothing strange in that. But if 80% of a people die with a certain treatment, and we're already seeing that if we don't give them the treatment that we would normally give people in this situation, but we give them CPAP or other breathing aids, and they survive, doesn't that then confirm that the problem is that ventilators aren't doing the job we want them to do? And that COVID indeed isn't pneumonia. Now, that COVID isn't pneumonia isn't really that strange, because we all knew this. But somehow the treatment we are putting out there is still based on that. It's kind of funny that things like chloroquine is still being made ridiculous by mainstream media and governments around the world. No, you can't use chloroquine, even though it's been an effective drug for a bunch of years for a lot of different things. And the major side effects that chloroquine is purported to have just aren't there. And in all fairness, if I have COVID and I'm about to die, then I'd rather try chloroquine with a chance of dying of a heart attack than not trying anything and being sure to die of my lungs failing. But that's just me, and obviously I'm not a doctor. But then again, the doctors who agree with me are by law forbidden to speak in the Netherlands. How stupid can it get? Now, in the Netherlands I know this, I'm not sure about other countries, but there were 2 doctors in Limburg, which is a province in the Netherlands, that were treating patients with chloroquine, and they were forbidden to do so by threat of losing their license, because it shouldn't work. COVID and chloroquine should not matter. I mean, chloroquine doesn't help against COVID, and if you prove that it does, then you're a danger to the narrative, and therefore we must destroy what you're doing. Now, that's weird. Yeah, but it's Trump who said chloroquine. No, it wasn't Trump who said chloroquine work. Trump was one of the people who parroted the stories that chloroquine would work. There were doctors in France that had studied it. Obviously, there were doctors in America doing it as well, but they didn't start using chloroquine in the USA. But somehow, we're not to mention this, we're not to think of this, because the story is, it doesn't work. Now, the worst part is that the whole COVID thing so far has been built up of lies. The World Health Organization telling how it's not transmittable between humans. It's unfair to stop people from traveling into your country even though they might have COVID, because it's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, well, lots of people are dying. Oh well, it's the biggest dangerous disease since ever, even though the death number is still lower than flu. But you're not to mention that, because everyone seems to think flu doesn't have that high a death number, which, by the way, it does, because in the Netherlands about 8,000 people die a year from flu. In America, 35 to 65,000 people die because of the flu. And there they are already vaccinated against the flu. Anyway, see you later, Paulo Costa. I'm curious to hear what you think of my little ramble once you have the time to look at it. So yeah, you're not to mention that the COVID and the flu are in certain ways similar. And if you do, you will get banned. Now, if they ban me or destroy my videos because of it, I can say, you know what? Yeah, maybe, because I'm not a doctor. I mean, I do work in healthcare, but I'm not a doctor, not even close. I'll be the first to admit that. But when doctors speak out about this, they're being silenced. How's that possible? I mean, in all fairness, yes, I understand that there are people who claim to be experts and they have knowledge and blah 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 blah, but all of the prognoses that were made with COVID, how many people would get sick? Yeah, more people got sick than they predicted. How many people would die? Well, they didn't even get close to that number. I mean, by now we should have had millions of deaths. Worldwide, we have around 250,000. It's probably more because I don't trust the Chinese numbers, but it's nowhere near several million. We should have. Yeah, but the lockdown's effect is also negligible, or it seems that it is negligible, because yeah, a lot of people might get sick, but the amount of people that die, well, I mean, there are lots of things looking into the dying bit, and it seems that now one of the reasons people die when they have corona is because of the maltreatment of the bloody disease. And there is a maltreatment because we don't want to look into other ways of treating it, because Donald Trump said something. For fuck's sake, how stupid can we get? I mean, what does the Netherlands have to do with Donald Trump? But doctors in the Netherlands are told not to use chloroquine because it's not proven. Yeah, but it's also not proven not to work. And considering the fact that it is a new disease and we don't have any proven medication against it, the only way to find out if something works is by doing it. And then they prove that it works, and then it's being said, well, yeah, but that's only anecdotal. I'm sorry. Yes, it wasn't because of a double-blind test, I understand, but if most people given this stuff actually heal up and survive because of it, I don't need a double-blind test. I mean, it's pretty clear that this stuff works. Could there be better stuff out there? Yeah, probably, but this is working. The other thing is we put them on ventilators. 80% of the people who are on ventilators die. It's beyond stupidity that we're constantly pushing for certain things that we don't know works, but the few things that we know have an effect, we kind of tell people not to do because we don't know if it'll work. Yeah, but the only reason why chloroquine, for example, is being pushed is because of its effect. Oh well. And indeed, Michael Keller. And as soon as the vaccines will be out, it's not proven to increase the immunity, as there are no blood tests to check for antibodies. Well, that's not 100% true, because we have blood tests that are able to check for antibodies, but having antibodies does not protect you from corona, because you can get sick again. If this is the case, then the question comes back into, well, if that's, then herd immunity isn't a thing, and vaccines won't do a thing. Now, in all fairness, if any reasonable natural selection will happen, the virus will become less deadly in the coming years. Not because people have immunities or not, but because viruses that survive are the viruses that people survived with. I mean, if a virus is particularly strong and it kills you, you're dead. Hence, you're not infecting new people. Hence, the virus dies. On average, viruses tend to become less deadly over time because viruses too want to survive. It makes you wonder why we are being lied to so much. Now, having talked about this, there was a second topic I wanted to address today. Many of the people out there know who Michael Moore is. And Michael Moore is often being portrayed as the ultimate lefty. In a way, he is. I have no problem believing that. But he made, how do you call it, a documentary talking about how the Green New Deal sorta is a problem. Green energy is a lot of things, but green it is not. Now, for the people who haven't seen his documentary, I too will try to provide a link later. Or you can just look it up on YouTube. I think it's called Planet of Humans, or Planet of the Humans. Kind of like Planet of the Apes, but then humans. And in this documentary, they talk about several things about the green new energy bullshit. How the green energy and renewable energy is a lot of things but green, and a lot of things but renewable. Because let's be honest, solar panels only go about 30 years and they use quite a lot of toxins to make, and recycling them is also not easily done. Now, the funny thing is, most of the things in the documentary, if you're already on the I don't trust the renewable energy idiots, if you're already on that side of the debate, you will not hear lots of new stuff. I mean, when I saw it, yeah, obviously that documentary is a lot better than what I made, and they went into the depth of certain things way more than I could have, but they didn't really tell me anything new. You could burn biofuels, okay. There is a bio-waste thing. What do they burn? Well, usually they burn wood. Yeah, but they add other stuff to make it burn better. For example, plastics or rubber. Yeah, that's not news. Well, for a lot of people it is. Yeah, but let's be honest. Freshly cut wood doesn't burn well. Everyone knows that. No, not everyone knows that, because a lot of people seem to think wood burns easily, which it really doesn't. Okay, so then there's talk about the solar panels. It takes a lot of energy to make. They're only good for about 30 years, and then you have to recycle them, and you can't recycle all of them. So there's going a lot of energy in producing them. They produce a period of time. They produce energy. They don't produce that much. And then it costs a lot of energy to get rid of them. It's a farce. It's a joke. It's a bad joke. Well, we can have wind turbines standing here, yeah, and they go on for about 30 years. And they barely make as much energy as is used to create them. And yeah, no, that is true. They do chop down the trees to burn them directly. So these trees are wet. And wet trees don't burn. Indeed, Michael Keller. Funny enough, I haven't seen the whole of the documentary, and not once did I hear him talk about nuclear energy. Because in all fairness, out of all the forms of energy that we have, that seems to be the only one that we can consider green. Now, there are people who will say, yeah, but hydro dams are pretty powerful and useful too. Which is true, but it does have a very negative effect on the environment too. One that a lot of people don't seem to realize. Because if you capture the river, then a lot of water that would normally go through the lands and towards the sea now doesn't go through the lands and towards the sea, which means that the lands will dry out eventually anyway. So yeah, that is an issue, but it's an issue that we could probably come to grips with. It's something we could do something about or against. But not once did he talk, or at least in what I saw from the video, not once did he talk about the nuclear energy. Now, he's talking about how a lot of the green energy producers still use a lot of fossil fuels to bring up their energy production, which is, funny enough, very realistic, because everyone knows. But somehow, apparently not everyone knew. And because Michael Moore says it, and after all, he is one of the leftist lovely kids and all that, it's now a message coming in from the left. Which to me is a good thing, don't get me wrong. I mean, realizing that we are being lied to is always a good thing, even if the ones that tell us that we're being lied to are the same people that once lied to us. But at least, how do you call it? Better turned halfway than being led astray fully. Something like that. It doesn't translate well, sorry. In Dutch we would say, beter ten halve gekeerd dan ten hele gedwaald. It translates something like, better to have turned halfway than to have wandered completely. It makes more sense in Dutch. Anyway, so yeah, there is that. And it's a good thing that these people are now talking about how our global energy consumption might be a problem, but the lies of green energy production is a far bigger problem. And it's bloody well more polluting than I shouldn't swear so much. It's more polluting than the normal way we create our energy at this point in time. Now, don't get me wrong, in the 1970s and the 1960s and the 1980s, our energy production was bloody well very pollutant. But we've come a long way since then. Our energy production is a lot cleaner. Funny enough, the green energy production is far more destructive, far more polluting than our polluting old style of energy production. Which is funny because he does mention that. It makes you wonder why he never talks about nuclear though. Anyway, I've been busy for half an hour and I've gone through a lot of things I wanted to say. I'll do more streams, obviously. I'll try to be back next Saturday, and if not, then definitely next Wednesday. I have to admit, people, I am also working hard on getting a job. With a bit of luck, I'll be able to say I've got a job not too far from now. And I've decided to bring it back in studying. It's kind of funny, I'm currently working on social psychology, and it's amazing to see how much of it is more or less drenched with postmodernism. But hey, it's all part of the storyline. We have to get that bloody paper, and once we have that paper, I can say I know something because I have a paper. Anyway, it's just me and Michael at the moment. Paolo, thank you for joining me earlier. Michael, thank you for joining me now, and you made great points there, mate. I am going to call it quits though, and I hope to see you all next time. And yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And criticism, as always, is more than welcome. Bye bye.